Okay, so today we're filming a discussion of the syllabus for Chem 351. If you watch this video and you have questions about the syllabus, please feel free to send those to me by email. Our class time is very precious, so we're really not going to take any time to discuss the syllabus in class. So if you do have questions, please send those to me by email. So you see here my office hours listed at the top. And I want to encourage you to come to my office hours. In general, my office hours are often underutilized. For some reason, some students feel intimidated about coming to faculty members' office hours. I don't think I'm that intimidating. I try to be a nice guy. And also, I would tell you that I think I have the best view of any office on campus. So if you're hesitant to come to my office, at least please come to enjoy the view and we can talk about organic chemistry while you're there. You see here we have the learning outcomes listed for the semester. We're going to start out discussing fundamental principles of organic chemistry. Some of those principles will build on principles that you've learned in general chemistry, whereas others will be new principles. Once we've introduced enough of those basic principles, then we will start discussing some fundamental organic reactions. We will be studying additions, substitutions, and eliminations. Those will be most of the reactions that we study this semester will fit into those categories. And then towards the end of the semester, we will study spectroscopy. Spectroscopy encompasses the techniques that we use to determine the structures of organic compounds. So our textbook that we use is written by Jan Smith, published by McGraw-Hill. I've sent you an email explaining how the textbook works. It is an ebook that is available in Learning Suite. We're using the 6th edition. If you have access to a previous edition, you can use that edition for Chem 351. Some of the chapters have been moved around, so some of the chapter numbers and chapter titles will be different. So it would require a little bit of work to use the 5th edition, but all the content that you would need for 351 is in the 6th edition. However, there is some additional content in the 6th edition that's not in the 5th edition that will be covered in Chem 352. So I'm not teaching 352 this year, so I can't really comment on the suitability of using the 5th edition or even earlier editions for 352. So if you're using or intending to use the 5th edition or another earlier edition of the Smith textbook, my advice is that that would work this semester. It may not work for Chem 352. So you might want to talk to people who are teaching Chem 352 and get their opinions on that before deciding which edition of the textbook to use. The last thing I'll mention on the textbook for now is that if you are using an edition other than the 6th, you need to contact me for the homework assignment for that edition because the homework problems are different in the different editions. And so if you try to do the homework assignment that's listed on Learning Suite, the problems won't match up to the problems I want you to do in your edition. So please contact me if you're using any edition other than the 6th edition, and I will email you the appropriate homework assignment. So here you see the schedule for the semester. We have a very well organized textbook, and so we are following the order of the textbook for chapters 1 through 12. And then we have chapters that used to be called 13 and 14. They split what used to be chapter 13 into chapters A and B, and then chapter 14 is now called chapter C. That was done to emphasize that those chapters can be moved around. They don't have to be covered in the order that they are given in the book. For our class, it makes sense to cover them in order So A, B, and C do come after chapter 12. But then because of some consolidation in the some of this material, we're adding one additional chapter, which we have covered previously in 351 when it was earlier in the book in earlier editions, and that is chapter 21 on radical reaction. So we will go in order in the book through C, and then the last chapter we'll skip ahead to chapter 21, which is radical reactions. So again, because one of the strengths of our book is it is very well organized. Its organizational pattern is excellent. We will largely follow the sequence of topics in the textbook. And so for chapter 1, you'll see that we have 3 days scheduled to cover chapter 1. So by the first day of class, you would want to have roughly the first third of chapter 1 read. And then by the second day of class, if you had up to 2/3 of that chapter read, then you would be well prepared. And that pattern holds true throughout the semester. That the number of days that we're covering on a chapter, you can just divide the chapter by that number and have the appropriate portions of the chapter read before you come to class. If you read the sections that we'll be covering in class prior to class, you will have a much better experience in class because you'll have seen and read the material that we'll be discussing in class. You'll be much better able to ask questions on things that you don't understand. And what you hear in class will reinforce and solidify what you have already read. And then you'll see that we will have 4 regular exams throughout the semester scheduled in the testing center. So make sure that you get those on your schedule. We'll have more to say about those exams as exam 1 approaches. We'll post a sample exam on Learning Suite so that you can get an idea of the format of the exam, the length, the types of questions that are asked. And then our final exam will be held in the classroom at the time scheduled in the university schedule. So the time that they've given us for our exam is Tuesday, December 14th at 2:30. And so please do not book any airplane tickets to go home before this date because you will need to be here in the classroom taking the exam on that day. University policy does not allow us to give final exams early. Down here you see our grading and the amount of points available for each assignment. So I've already mentioned our exams. Those are each worth 100 points. Our final exam is worth twice as much as a regular exam. This allows people who, there's always students who kind of put it together at the last minute, who get the hang of organic chemistry partway through the semester. And so having a final exam worth twice as many points as a regular exam gives those students an opportunity to boost their standing in the class. You'll see that we have written quizzes listed here worth 50 points, and they are 10 points each. So we will have in-class quizzes, and these quizzes, as you'll see over here, are unannounced. So we will not say when we will have these quizzes. There's a reason for that. I'll mention that in a moment, but first I'll talk a little bit about the format of these quizzes. So they are short quizzes. They're designed to be completed within 5 minutes. They are designed to be at the level of the easiest homework problems in the textbook. Our textbook really has 3 types of homework problems. We have easier homework problems that are designed simply to check your understanding of the basic concepts as you're reading through the textbook. And many of those easier level problems are embedded within the chapters. As you read through the chapters, you'll find homework problems embedded within the chapters. And the quizzes are designed to be at the level of those homework problems embedded within the chapters. Then at the end of each chapter, you have a few more of the easy questions, but then you have also what I would consider medium level questions that are a little more challenging. And then finally, at the end of each body of homework problems, we have what are known as the challenge problems. Those are the most difficult problems. So if you are keeping up with your reading of the textbook, if you are working those assigned homework problems that are within the chapters, that are those easier level problems, then you should be well prepared for any of these written quizzes that we will be having at the beginning of class. So why are they unannounced? Well, in all of my years of teaching organic chemistry here at BYU, I have learned that due to human nature, students are more prepared for class when there's a possibility of having a quiz at the beginning of class. And so having these unannounced quizzes does serve as a little extra motivation for students to keep up on their reading, to keep up on working the homework problems. And this is very, very important. In organic chemistry, the material builds on itself. So the material we're learning later in the semester will build on the material we're learning earlier in the semester. So if you fall behind in the class, it has a snowball effect, and it's very, very difficult to catch up. So one of my goals as your instructor is to do everything I can to ensure that you do not fall behind in this class. And so I have found that these written quizzes are an effective tool to help keep you from falling behind in your reading and in your working homework problems. If you talk to anyone who's taken the class before, they will tell you that this is not the sort of class that you can cram in the material the day before the exam. You can't just postpone reading the book, doing the homework problems, and say, okay, I'm going to do it all the night before the exam. That just doesn't work. So the reason these quizzes are unannounced is that I have found that actually helps you learn organic chemistry. I realize that does cause some anxiety, and some of that anxiety can be problematic. We will always have these quizzes at the beginning of class. So if we start class and there's no quiz, then you can rest assured there will not be a quiz that class period. You can relax and focus on what we'll be discussing in class that day. Because the quizzes are always held at the beginning of class, then you need to be here when the bell rings. The quizzes will start when the bell rings. Okay, our class time is very, very precious. I intend to use every minute that I am allotted by the university to teach you organic chemistry. That's what I'm getting paid to do. I want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. So we will start with the quizzes right when the bell rings. We do not have the ability to wait. So you need to be here in your seat, ready to go at 8 a.m. When class starts. So make sure you give yourself a little bit of extra time in case you encounter traffic on the way. Just one brief story I'll tell you in regard to this. Many, many years ago when I was a student at BYU taking Chem 351, I also had this class at 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And my 352 class was at the same time. I had a classmate. That classmate lived in West Jordan, lived up in the Salt Lake County area. So he had a pretty significant commute to get from there to here every morning, probably about 40 minutes every morning. He was never late. He made it by 8 a.m. every single day. That was very, very impressive. And this person obviously is very, very disciplined. He happens to be another faculty member here in the chemistry department at BYU now. But if he can do it, I felt if he could be on time all the time, I could do it. So that motivated me to be on time, and so can you. So make sure you're here by 8 a.m. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because we will not wait for you to take those quizzes. If you look at the way that they are scored here, we have 50 points allotted to quizzes. I've told you that there will be at least 6 of these quizzes. The actual number of quizzes is at this point is unknown even to me, because if I feel that the class needs more quizzes to kind of help improve your learning of the subject, then we will have 7, 8, maybe 9 quizzes. If things are going well, maybe we'll just have 6 quizzes. That's the minimum number of quizzes. What that means is that you'll be able to drop, once we've had 5 quizzes, any additional quiz that we have can replace a lower quiz score that you might have had. So the more quizzes we have, the more opportunities you would have to replace lower quiz scores. We'll only count your top 5 quiz scores. If you are absent due to illness, required quarantines, personal or family emergencies, university approved trips, then you are able to make up those quizzes. If your absence is not due to one of the things that I have mentioned, then you would not be able to make up those quizzes. But by having extra quizzes, that can replace any occasional absences that you might have. We will also have iClicker quizzes. We won't have any on Monday, but those could begin as early as Wednesday. The iClicker quizzes will occur at various points during the lecture. Some days are well suited to iClicker quizzes, whereas others are less so. So we won't have iClicker quizzes every single class period. Some class periods we might have more than one iClicker quiz. And we're using the app. We're not using the physical iClickers this year. So you need to make sure that you purchase the digital access code and that you use that either on a phone, a tablet, or a laptop to be able to participate in the iClickers, okay? And all of our general chemistry classes converted over to this system last year. So I'm hopeful that most of you are familiar with the how to use that app. There is a handout on iClickers that is available on Learning Suite, so you can download that and it will explain where to get that app, how to use that app. If you have any questions, please let me know. The way we grade iClickers is also explained in this handout. Briefly, we set 90% of the total possible points equivalent to full credit. So this gives you about a 10% fudge factor, again, in case you have occasional absences or in case you forget your device. Most of you probably basically have your phone attached to your body these days, and so you're probably not going to forget your phone, but just make sure it has enough battery power to make it through the class period. But if you do have an occasional mishap with your technology, or if you're occasionally absent, we do set 90% of the total possible points in the class equivalent to full credit. And then we'll have another assignment, a spectroscopy quiz. This will be a take-home quiz. The spectroscopy material we'll be covering in chapters A, B, and C lends itself well to a take-home quiz format. So we will have a take-home quiz at that point in the semester. Now over here, you will see a grading scale. This is an approximate grading scale of approximately how many students in a typical BYU Chem 351 class end up earning A's, B's, C's, and so forth, okay? This is approximate. It is not set in stone. It is just a guideline. My promise to you is that every student in this class will receive the grade that they earn, okay? So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that any student who earns 90% of the points or above for the semester is guaranteed to get an A or an A minus, okay? So if the entire class is over 90%, everybody in the class will get A's and A minuses, and this percentage will be 100%, okay? Now that has never happened before in all the time I've taught here at BYU, but I would love for that to happen. I'm on your side. I want you to do well. I want everybody in this class to succeed, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. So while students tend to sort themselves into these categories, they are not written in stone. So what that means is you are not in competition with your neighbor or your other classmates for a limited number of A's. That is absolutely not the case. So there's no need to worry about your classmate doing well and having that penalize you. That's just not the case. So I want you to study together in groups. I want you to help each other do well in this class because everybody benefits. If I had a class where everybody earned over 90%, I'd probably get an award for being an awesome teacher. So that would be great for me and it would be great for you. It's great for everyone. So just recognize that these are historical guidelines that most classes sort themselves into. I have enough data. I've taught this class for a long enough period of time that I have enough data to be able to compare you to a typical BYU Chem 351 class. So if you perform better than a normal class does, then more of you will be earning A's and B's than in these categories. So you are not in competition with your classmates. So study together, help each other. It is my goal that everybody does well in this class. Okay, we've already discussed most of the topics in this section of the syllabus: iClickers, quizzes, and exams. One thing I will mention is there is a system called BACON, stands for Biology and Chemistry Online Notes. It is an online tutorial system tied to some of the topics we will cover this semester, and there are some quizzes associated with that. This provides you another way to replace a low quiz score. So it is optional to participate in the BACON quizzes. But if you do, and there's a very small fee associated, they're run by UCLA. There's a small fee associated with maintaining their servers and their system. But if you register for it and you participate in the BACON quizzes, your average on the BACON quizzes can replace your lowest quiz average. And we'll talk more about that later in the semester as we start to cover those topics. Okay, and then you also see policies for makeups. There are only certain categories where you can make up quizzes and exams, a regrade policy as well. Homework, I've mentioned homework, but you didn't see homework on the previous page in terms of allocation of points. The reason for that is we have a full class. I believe we have 256 students enrolled in the class this semester, and it's impossible for us to grade everybody's homework. So the way we reduce that load, but also make it important for you to do the homework, is the homework is worth 6 points. You turn in the notebook at the end of the semester. Once we have finished the final exam, I will set the curve, which means I will decide which point values are the breaks between the different grade levels, between the A and the A minus, the A minus and the B plus, and so forth. And any student who is within 6 points of the next higher grade, I will pull that student's notebook and we will grade it. Okay. And usually, so the reason the homework is worth 6 points is that in a class of this size, typically about 10% of you are going to be within 6 points of the next higher grade. Okay. So for those 10% of you for which the homework would actually make a difference in which letter grade you get, then we will grade your homework. And if you earned enough points to earn that higher letter grade, then that's what you will get. Okay. Now, because the final exam is worth 200 points, you have no way of knowing if you're going to be on that border at the end of the semester. So you want to make sure that you do the homework in case you're on the border so that it can make a difference between getting an A versus an A minus or an A minus versus a B plus. This point right here in bold and italics is also very, very important. The homework problems are one of the best ways to prepare for the exam. So if you're working the homework problems regularly, not only will you benefit if you end up on the borderline, you will also benefit in terms of having higher exam scores because you will be well prepared for the exam. So the value of the homework is much more than just the 6 points that are shown here. We also have an extra credit assignment, and that extra credit assignment involves creating a music video, usually a parody of a song where you change the lyrics to involve organic chemistry topics. There is a handout on Learning Suite explaining that assignment, so I won't say much about it right now. I will say that that's been a fun extra credit assignment for many students in the past. They've had a good time with it. Please feel free to poke fun at me, to make fun of me. That's not a problem. My kids actually love to watch the videos that make fun of me. So you can have fun at my expense. And then one other additional feature this year is Dr. Stowers, who is teaching the 2 p.m. section. She's also doing this assignment, and she's really competitive. She wanted to have a competition between her class and my class to see who could create the best music videos. So we're still working out the details on that, but we'll have some sort of a friendly competition between our class and Dr. Stowers' class. and I'm confident that you guys will prevail, so don't let me down. Recitations, those are held on Tuesdays with our TAs. They will encompass a range of problem solving, question and answer sessions, reviews for exams. Attendance is not required. There will be no new material covered in those recitations, but they will only cover material we've previously covered in class. So it is not required to attend these sessions, but it is strongly encouraged. If you attend the recitations, you will benefit. It will help you in the class. You do not have to attend the recitation you were registered for. Okay, so you can attend the recitation of your choice. So if there's a particular TA that you like or a particular group of students that you're studying with, you're welcome to attend the same recitation with them. We also have a tutorial lab where the TAs will be holding office hours. The details, I think, are still being worked out. It is going to be done in person this year. There may be a Zoom component along with that. So I don't know all the details at this time, but those will unfold as the semester proceeds. You'll learn more about ChemDraw, which is a program that you can use that's available in a chemistry computer lab. All right. Before I get into the helpful hints, which is the last thing I'm going to mention on this video, there was one thing about the quizzes that I neglected to mention earlier, which is that the unannounced written quizzes that we will have in class will always cover material that we have covered in previous classes. Okay, so it will not cover the new material that we will be covering later that day in the class. So you only have to have mastered the material that we have covered previously in class for those written quizzes. All right, and with that, helpful hints. So everybody wants to know, what do I need to do to get an A in organic chemistry? Well, there's no magic formula. There is a simple formula. That simple formula involves reading the textbook. We have an excellent textbook. You need to take advantage of it. Read the textbook. Read the sections that we're going to cover before coming to class. As you read it, make notes of concepts you don't understand just by reading the textbook. Then as we discuss those concepts in class, you're able to either get answers to those questions within the natural framework of the lecture, or raise your hand and ask a question. So reading the textbook will make your time in class more effective and allow you to be a more active participant in class. Okay? So the second part is come to class. Regular attendance in organic chemistry is essential for performance, for performing well. Okay? And the pandemic reinforced that. Students who were able to come to class on a regular basis did much better in organic chemistry last year than students who were unable to come due to quarantining. So this brings up another thing that you can do to help your performance in class, and that is get vaccinated for COVID if you haven't been vaccinated already. The way the rules work as of today, if you are exposed to COVID and you have not been vaccinated, you will have to quarantine for a minimum of 10 days. However, if you are exposed to COVID and you have been fully vaccinated, you do not have to quarantine. You're merely required to wear a mask in all indoor settings, which you have to do at BYU anyway. And then you're supposed to take a COVID test after about 4 or 5 days of your exposure to see if you actually picked up the virus, which is much less likely if you've been vaccinated. So, being vaccinated will give you a much better chance of being able to come to class and will therefore give you a much better chance of getting an A. So it is in your best interests, your own personal best interest, to get vaccinated. I realize there is probably a very small number of you that are unable to get vaccinated due to medical conditions or medical reasons. I have a relative myself who has been advised not to get vaccinated by a physician. But most of you, I'm pretty confident, are medically able to get vaccinated. And if you have not, I encourage you to get vaccinated. This will help you this semester will help you be able to be in class more regularly, and that will therefore increase your chances of getting an A. All right, and so there's a couple steps after reading the textbook and coming to class that are important. The next one is working the homework problems. Organic chemistry is a problem-solving discipline. There's no way to learn the subject without working homework problems. So that is essential, an essential part of your learning. And then the final step in the process is get feedback on those problems. You have a solutions manual that came with your purchase of the ebook, and make sure you use that solutions manual. Make sure you are looking up the answers to the problems. Make sure you're using it after you have worked the problems. But if you work a problem and you look up the answer and it doesn't match, and you don't understand why your answer is incorrect, then you need to get feedback. That's the final step of the process. Come to my office hours and ask me questions about the homework problems. Come to the TA's office hours or the recitations and ask them questions. Form study groups and ask your peers in those study groups those questions, okay? And so in general, that's the formula. It is a simple formula, not a magic formula, but it is a formula that requires hard work. And it requires consistency, because if you slip up or slack off and fall behind at any point during the semester, it is very, very difficult to catch up, okay? And then the last thing here, I've already mentioned this, the grade scale is based on guidelines, but it is not set in stone. I would love to award every one of you an A. All right, so that's all I have to say in regards to the syllabus, and I look forward to seeing you in class on Monday.